The President. Questions. Question 1, Mr. Tommy CHEUNG. According to the application requirements of the Enhanced Supplementary Labor Scheme, ESLS, if the prospective imported workers are mainland residents, the employer must recruit the imported workers through mainland labor service enterprises, labor service intermediaries, approved by the relevant competent authority in commerce of the mainland. However, many employers in the catering sector who have applied for importation of mainland workers have relayed that the services provided by such labor service intermediaries vary in quality, rendering the applications time-consuming and costly. In this connection, will the government inform this council of the regulatory measures put in place by the authorities to prevent employers from being misled by unscrupulous labor service intermediaries? 2. Whether it will consider taking the initiative to conduct an opinion survey on employers applying to ESLS so as to gain an understanding of the difficulties they encounter in recruiting imported workers through labor service intermediaries, thereby reviewing the relevant situation. And 3. Given that labor service intermediaries operate licensed employment agencies, EAs, in Hong Kong, which arrange mainland workers to come and work in Hong Kong, and the Labor Department has drawn up a list of them. But among the 14 labor service intermediaries shown on the list, the licensed EAs of 2 labor service intermediaries are categorized as non-applicable. Whether the government will consider discussing with the relevant mainland authorities about increasing the number of labor service intermediaries on the list, as well as reviewing the list regularly. Secretary for Labor and Welfare. President, to cope with the challenges brought about by manpower shortage, the government has enhanced the mechanism for importation of laborers with a view to allowing enterprises greater flexibility in importing workers to fill job vacancies and fostering the economic and social development of Hong Kong. Apart from launching sector-specific labor importation schemes for the construction sector, transport sector, and residential care homes for the elderly and residential care homes for persons with disabilities, the Labor Department has implemented the Enhanced Supplementary Labor Scheme, ESLS, since the 4th of September 2023 to enhance the coverage and operation of the previous Supplementary Labor Scheme, including suspending the general exclusion of the 26 job categories, as well as unskilled or low-skilled posts from labor importation for 2 years. The reply to the member's question is as follows. Regarding Question 1 and 3, in accordance with the relevant regulations of the mainland, we require that employers intending to recruit workers from the mainland to work in Hong Kong under the aforesaid labor importation schemes must make arrangements through the Labor Service Corporation enterprises authorized to operate business on arranging workers to work in Hong Kong under the regulations on management of Foreign Labor Service Corporation of the Mainland, Labor Service Enterprises in short. At present, there are a total of 14 approved labor service enterprises, of which 12 enterprises or their associated enterprises have established licensed employment agencies in Hong Kong. To facilitate Hong Kong employers seeking to employ mainland workers to liaise with these employment agencies, LD has uploaded a list of Hong Kong licensed employment agencies connected with the labor service enterprises and their contact information to the dedicated web page of ESLS. Employment agencies operating in Hong Kong must abide by the Employment Ordinance, the Employment Agencies Regulations, and the Code of Practice for Employment Agencies. LD has met with the above-mentioned employment agencies and reiterated that they must provide services in compliance with the relevant regulations. In addition, we maintain communication with the Ministry of Commerce to reflect the latest situation of the labor service enterprises operations in Hong Kong and will explore appropriate measures to enhance the mechanism for importation of mainland workers to Hong Kong in the light of operational experience. Regarding the second question, LD has been closely monitoring the implementation of ESLS and maintaining liaison with employer associations of various industries, including organizing sessions to brief employers on the application procedures of ESLS and answer their questions on the spot. We welcome employers to reflect their views to LD. LD plans to meet with the stakeholders, including major employer associations and trade unions, to gather their views on ESLS, and will review the scheme prior to the lapse of its 2-year implementation period. Thank you, President. Mr. Tommy CHEUNG. President, I have a question for the Secretary. My oral question relates to the work of the labor service intermediaries. I mean that they're not doing their job well. Can you try to figure out what problems we're facing? It would be best if you have a marking scheme. If the intermediaries violate the regulations, then you deduct a few points from them. Secretary. Thank you. There are two layers to the labor service enterprises. In Mainland, we call them foreign-related labor service enterprises. The 14 labor service enterprises are approved by the Ministry of Commerce. In Hong Kong, if they want to conduct business, they have to establish an employment agency, and that is under the purview of the Labor Department. So a part of it is regulated by the Mainland, and a part of these enterprises are regulated by Hong Kong. When you come across difficulties, we talk to the Ministry of Commerce. If the sector comes across any challenges, we will relay them to the Ministry of Commerce. Hopefully, we can smoothen the procedures. Next, Mr. Chao Chiu-chung. President, under the ESLS, workers must be employed by Hong Kong employers through the 14 labor service intermediaries. But some imported workers are referred by some agencies in the Mainland to the labor service enterprises before they can come to Hong Kong. These agencies abuse the imported workers by charging them commission and ask them to pay part of their wages to them. And sometimes they ask the employers to pay the imported workers in full and then subject the imported workers to wage rebate. This will affect the career prospects of the local workers. Even with these 14 labor service intermediaries, we cannot regulate such a situation. Apart from the monitoring of the Labor Department, how can we improve our policy to prevent unscrupulous agencies from taking part in the process? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chow, for the question. We treat local workers and imported workers the same. They are all equally protected by Hong Kong legislation. The Ministry of Commerce approved the 14 labor service intermediaries, and they set out the commission and fees that can be charged by these intermediaries. So for trade unions and people who are concerned about the interest of the imported workers, please work with us. And if you have any evidence, please relay them to us as well. We have an interdepartmental task force comprising the Development Bureau, the Labor Department. If intermediaries violate local legislation by charging imported workers, we will hold them liable. As long as we collect substantial evidence that employers are part of this unscrupulous act, we will stop them from applying for imported workers under our scheme. And if the Mainland intermediaries break the law, we will also relay such cases to the Mainland authorities. Next, Mr. Kingsley Wong. Thank you, President. We have to protect the local workers and the imported workers. In the cases of abuse of imported workers, the situation is particularly serious in RCHEs. Intermediaries charge high referral fees, And the salary sometimes appear to be $32,000 per month, but then they have to rebate 50% to the intermediaries. The nature of these unscrupulous acts are more or less the same. Maybe the administration should conduct a random check on 5% of the intermediaries. If any abuse is identified, we can relate the cases to the police secretary. Thank you, Mr. Wong, for the question. Under ESLS, we have a comprehensive set of mechanisms to safeguard the interest of the imported workers. Imported workers have to sign standard employment contract, and within 16 weeks upon arrival, the employer must arrange the imported workers to attend briefings. We also have surprise inspection. If you are aware of any incompliance, please refer the cases to the Labor Department and the police. We will take enforcement action stringently. We come across cases where, we ask the employers to pay wages to imported workers by means of auto pay. However, if employer confiscate the ATM card of the imported workers, they violate the laws. If the ATM cards is being confiscated by employers, then the employer would have broken the law. Mr. Shu Ka-fai. Thank you, President. Since the 4th of September last year, we launched the enhanced supplementary labor scheme. I'm sure that a lot of people are interested because our median wage could be $15,000 in some industries, but the same position pay only $3,000 to $4,000 in the mainland. However, intermediaries abuse the workers by charging them unfairly. Can the members relay the question or refer the cases to you for follow-up? Thank you. Secretary, thank you. We're working on it. We've come across cases in the construction industry, and we ask the trade union leaders to give us the relevant information, because a lot of the imported workers, after being exploited, will return to the mainland. However, we ask the trade unions to invite these imported workers to come back to Hong Kong to make a statement. And we try to hold any unscrupulous employers or intermediaries responsible. If you have any substantial evidence, please let us know, or let the police know. Please, we have to make sure that the imported workers are willing to come back to Hong Kong to give evidence. So we have to work together. This is how we protect the interest of both the local workers and imported workers. Mr. Paul Chair. The Secretary said time and again that if you come across any case, please relay them to us. But this is not ideal. We are fully aware of what's happening in various industries. For tourists, if they have complaints, they can pursue them after they've left in Hong Kong. Why can't we be progressive and adopt preventive measures? We should promote such message. We know that some intermediaries are unscrupulous, and we should not wait until things have happened before we act. Secretary, thank you. Our mechanism is clear. We have requirements on the employers and the intermediaries, as well as the imported workers. We have safeguards for imported workers. We ask them to sign standard employment contract. We invite them to briefings upon arrival in Hong Kong. Given so many regulations and requirements, still some people try to violate them. Mr. Luk Hong, thank you. Exploitation of imported workers would harm the interest of the local workers. These intermediaries can charge 12.5% of the total salary of the imported workers as their fees. But after charging the fees from the workers, are they providing service? I think that the Secretary is circumventing the question. It seems that you are passing the buck to the helpless imported workers or the trade unions. What is the core of the problem? After I complain my employers, I would lose my job, and the commission that I pay the intermediaries would go to waste. Can these intermediaries make sure that after the employee have complained, they can keep their job? This is how we make sure that the intermediaries would support their employees in making complaints. Mr. Ho Kai-ming assisted me in handling some cases. After the imported workers have been abused, they returned to the mainland, and we spent months persuading the workers to come back to Hong Kong. Can we mandate the intermediaries to offer a new job to the exploited imported workers after they make a complaint? Secretary, well, labor service intermediaries are regulated by mainland authorities. The fees that can be charged by the intermediaries are well set out in mainland regulations. For things that happen in Hong Kong, they will be regulated by Hong Kong laws. The mainland is equally concerned about the issue. The Ministry of Commerce oversees these labor service intermediaries. Please have confidence in the law enforcement agencies in Hong Kong, as well as our departments and the Ministry of Commerce. Please, trade unions, let the imported workers know that they should step forward if they are being abused. I'm not trying to pass the buck, but if they come across issues and they don't tell us, we have no ways to help them. The same goes for mainland intermediaries and imported workers. I'm sure that the mainland authorities are equally concerned about the interest of the workers coming from mainland to Hong Kong. Thank you. The speaker is off mic. Will you ask the Ministry of Commerce to ask these intermediaries to fulfill their obligations? Mr. Luk, please take your seat. Secretary, anything to add? Thank you, President. I've said very clearly that we work closely with the Ministry of Commerce and the mainland. We act in accordance to the laws of Hong Kong in protecting the interest of the imported workers. Equally, mainland authorities are concerned about mainland workers' interests. These labor service intermediaries are responsible for hundreds of thousands of workers who work elsewhere. So relevant mainland authorities and enforcement agencies are very much concerned about the interests of mainland workers who work elsewhere. Mr. Stanley, I thank the members from the business sector for the concern on the issue of imported workers' exploitation. They proposed this idea of marking scheme. I think that this is a great way for us to deal with the issue. So members from the labor sector has been asking the Secretary how we prevent such from happening again. So prevention is key. How do we do that? We should ask the labor service intermediaries to fulfill their obligations. If they engage in agencies, they should monitor and oversee their agencies. If the intermediaries don't fulfill their obligations, we should penalize them. Secretary, will you hold the intermediaries responsible? There should not be any more workers being exploited. Secretary. Thank you, President. Approved labor service intermediaries are regulated by the mainland regulations and legislation. When they establish employment agency in Hong Kong, then their behavior will be regulated by the rules of Hong Kong. As I've said previously, we work closely with the Ministry of Commerce on the mainland to make sure that the operation of these labor service intermediaries are lawful in both Hong Kong and the mainland. We already have a mechanism, but regardless of how stringent our mechanism is, there will always be intermediaries who try to circumvent the regulations.
Question 2, Mr. Kenneth Lau. President, the Chief Executive has indicated in the 2024 policy address that the government will increase the daily visitor quota under the Sha Tau Kok opening plan to 3,000 within this year and explore the application of facial recognition technology to complement the future opening up of the Chung Ying Street for tourism development. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, whether it will, in view of the continuous increase in the number of members of the public and visitors visiting Sha Tau Kok and the redevelopment of the Sha Tau Kok control point, allocate additional resources to upgrade the transport infrastructure in the area, example, constructing a public transport interchange for cross-boundary travelers and widening the Sha Tau Kok road so as to enhance the accessibility of Sha Tau Kok to connect to other districts. 2, whether it will, in view of the vibrant development of low-altitude economy industries of the mainland in recent years, consider introducing drones to carry sightseeing passengers on a pilot basis first in Sha Tau Kok so as to make good use of the natural resources in the area and promote the development of blue and green recreation and tourism. And 3, regarding the application of facial recognition technology to complement the future opening up of the Chung Ying Street for tourism development, whether the authorities have finalized the implementation details and specific timetable, if so, of the details. If not, whether the authorities will expeditiously commence a study so as to make good use of the value of the area to promote cultural and ecotourism. Thank you. Secretary for Security. President, in consultation with the Transport and Logistics Bureau, TLB, and Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau, CSTB, my reply to the various parts of the question is as follows. 1. The first and second phases of the Sha Tau Kok opening up plan were implemented in June 2022 and January 2024, respectively, allowing individual and group tourists to apply for closed area permit CAP and enter Sha Tau Kok except Chung Ying Street. Feedback received has been positive, with about 134,000 visitors who visited Sha Tau Kok today. The government has been closely monitoring the implementation of the plan and views of the stakeholders, continuously reviewing the arrangements and introducing enhancement measures. As announced in the 2024 policy address, we have increased the daily visitor quota under the plan to 3,000. In respect of traffic, the traffic on Sha Tau Kok Road is generally smooth during peak hours on weekdays and holidays. There is no need for road widening at this stage. The government will continue to closely monitor the situation in the area. In view of the aging facilities of the Sha Tau Kok control point and in order to enhance clearance efficiency and promote the development of Sha Tau Kok, the Hong Kong SAR government and the Shenzhen municipal government have reached a consensus to concurrently construct a passenger clearance building straddling the Sha Tau Kok River, taking the center line of the Sha Tau Kok River as the boundary line to set up their respective passenger clearance channels immediately adjacent to each other, that is, adopting a cross-river construction approach. The engineering feasibility study of the Sha Tau Kok Control Point redevelopment project is underway and is expected to be completed within 2025. The scope of the study includes matters such as road infrastructure, public transportation, land requirement area of the control point, land ownership, environmental assessment, and heritage conservation. The Hong Kong SAR government will continue to closely collaborate with the Shenzhen municipal governments to actively take forward the redevelopment project. Subject to the outcome of the study, the government will consider the transportation facilities, including public transport interchanges, required for the control point area and formulate service plans with the mainland authorities and Hong Kong operators to address the travel needs of visitors and facilitate public usage of the control point. The study will also review the traffic impact of the project on the surrounding roads, such as Sha Tau Kok Road. The government will formulate corresponding measures if necessary. 2. Low-altitude economy, LAE, with its great potentials, can be applied widely in different areas and help promote the development of various industries. The 2024 policy address announced a series of initiatives to promote the development of LAE, including the establishment of a working group on developing LAE led by the Deputy Financial Secretary to formulate development strategies and interdepartmental action plans and to plan for low-altitude infrastructure. The working group has convened its first meeting to discuss the overall development strategy and work plan. It will adopt a forward-thinking mindset and consider the role of a facilitator to take forward the relevant work through implementation of regulatory sandbox pilot projects, enhancement to legislation, and study and plan for low-altitude infrastructure. The working group will also promote interface with the mainland on the joint establishment of low-altitude cross-boundary air routes, immigration and customs clearance arrangements, and supporting infrastructure, and so on. At the same time, the government will press ahead with the implementation of pilot projects to explore unmanned aircraft applications at designated locations and will amend the legislation to put in place a regulatory framework. The government will collaborate with the industry and partner organizations to implement the sandbox pilot project starting from early next year. It is expected that the first phase will mainly cover drone deliveries, relaxation of restrictions on flying beyond visual line of sight, and gradually expanding and reaching the scope of low-altitude flying applications. CSTB will actively participate in and complement the work of the working group as one of its members and consider the feasibility of various proposals having regard to the relevant developments so as to promote the tourism development in Hong Kong. We will develop Hong Kong into a primary tourism destination through innovative thinking and making better use of our rich and unique resources, therefore practicing the concept of tourism is everywhere in Hong Kong. 3. The 2024 policy address announced that the Security Bureau will adopt facial recognition technology to enable people living or working at Chung Ying Street to enter and leave the street unimpededly via a contactless mode on a pilot basis, and will explore the application of the technology to complement the future opening up of Chung Ying Street for tourism. We will launch a facial recognition pilot scheme before the end of this year. The preparatory work is near completion. In future, CAP holders who are allowed to access Chung Ying Street may, upon prior enrollment, pass through the checkpoint via a contactless channel without having to stop and produce their CAP or use their fingerprint to verify their identity. In adopting this pilot scheme, we hope to explore applying innovative technology to replace the current mode of manual inspection in order to maintain boundary security and facilitate users of the checkpoint at the same time. Meanwhile, the government is actively promoting the cultural tourism development in Sha Tau Kok. The Tourism Commission will extend the Design District Hong Kong Creative Tourism Project to Sha Tau Kok from December this year to February next year. By integrating creative elements with Sha Tau Kok's cultural heritage and natural offerings, we will create and promote more cultural eco-tourism itineraries and products. The Travel Industry Council of Hong Kong will also continue to promote the two signature itineraries relating to tourism resources in Sha Tau Kok under the themes of Great Green Escapes and Journey Through National History, selected from the Deeper into Hong Kong Creative Itinerary Design Competition, so as to highlight the tourism characteristics of Sha Tau Kok. Through the Working Group for Sha Tau Kok Cooperation Zone, jointly established by Shenzhen and Hong Kong governments under the Task Force for Collaboration on the Northern Metropolis Development Strategy, CSTB, under the principles of complementarity and mutual benefits, will work together with the Shenzhen side to promote the cultural tourism cooperation in Sha Tau Kok based on principles low density, high quality to promote tourism development in Sha Tau Kok. Thank you. Mr. Kenneth Lau. Director Sha Baolong suggested Hong Kong must speed up the upgrading of our tourism sector. He said that we should make good use of the over 1,800 kilometers of our coast to develop tourism. Now, Lai Chi Wo has and other places have reached eco values. So I think we need to promote tourism both on land and in air. So, do you have any specific plans for promoting tourism development in Sha Tau Kok? Would you consider bringing in large sightseeing vessels to the area? Which public officer will take the question, please? Under Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. Well, CSTB and the Revenue Policy Bureau will work together to promote eco-tourism. We will look for more itineraries along the coast. For example, next year in Yan Chau Tong, we will have the island hopping activity, and then to complement the opening up of the Sha Tau Kok cross-boundary point, Sha Tau Kok, we will have circular routes linking up the Sha Tau Kok Pier and the nearby Geo Park. So we will also adjust the schedules to tie up in with the land transport services. Now, we will certainly consider various suggestions to bring in more tourism products, such as large sightseeing vessels. We will work with the Resident Bureau on these various suggestions. We'll also meet the needs of the sector as far as possible. Thank you. Mr. Kwok Wai Keung. Now, our Geo Park is much cherished and tourism resource source. Now, and then the government has planned to develop Yan Chau Tong into new visitor destination. I visited the area in September. My observation is we need to bundle Yan Chau Tong with Sha Tau Kok for tourism development to achieve synergy. Now, there are the first and second phases of opening up of Sha Tau Kok, but I think what is most important is that for visitors who enter Sha Tau Kok, they should be allowed to go into Chung Ying Street. Now, according to the reply, the facial recognition technology is only for residents and staff. Is not open to tourists or visitors. So when can visitors go into Chung Ying Street? That will bring more people to Sha Tau Kok, and then we could then promote the various island tourism products as well. Secretary for Security. While Chung Ying Street is a checkpoint, it's not a proper boundary control point. Now, for only those who live in Chung Ying Street or who work in Chung Ying Street, so people have to go across to Chung Ying Street, then they are the ones who will be issued with the permits. Now, we understand many Hong Kong residents are keen to visit Chung Ying Street. Well, in Chung Ying Street, there is actually not any proper separation facilities. So once you cross the checkpoint, that means you have entered the mainland. Now we need to strike a balance somewhere. Together with the CSTB, the Tourism Commission, and other revenue departments, we are now studying whether it's possible to have a group entries and exits. And we could do a pilot on that, but we're still considering the options. For example, if people join local tour groups to, if they go to Chung Ying Street, then they may actually wander onto the mainland side, and if something happens, well then maybe they think they are joining a local tour, but then they somehow wander into the mainland, and that may lead to certain liability. So how do we handle such scenarios? Because this is not a proper boundary control point, it's just a checkpoint. How can we make use of the resources of checkpoint to allow clearance as well. So we need to work on that. Thank you. Mr. Ma Fong Kwok. Thank you, President. I visited Sha Tau Kok, Chung Ying Street recently. It is at a good location, and only 130,000 visitors went there. It's a waste of such good resources. And on the mainland side, we see, we look at the shops and the buildings, they are all much better than facilities we have in Hong Kong. Because of the various constraints, no one dares to invest in Sha Tau Kok. And the retail sector is already facing huge challenges. Still, Chung Ying Street has great appeal to visitors. So I wonder if you have discussed this with the mainland authorities. That is, perhaps each side could set aside a certain area so we could turn that into a shopping area with ecotourism and other tourism products. So this will become a special feature tourism spot. Perhaps we could consider the loop approach. Who will take the question, please? Well, Chung Ying Street is not the same as the loop, because once you cross the bridge, then this is the Hong Kong side. And then there may be proper boundary control point in the future. But then Chung Ying Street currently is not a proper boundary control point. If you've been there, you know that there's just a big umbrella, and then there's a checkpoint. That's all there is. So we are already upgrading the facilities. And so that we'll have a passenger clearance building with facial recognition technology. And the building will be commissioned at the end of the year. And after people pass the checkpoint, you know, there are just two boulders there to serve as the boundary line. It's not a proper boundary control point. So if it's not possible to allow normal boundary control point traffic at the moment, because that's not what Chung Ying Street is designed for. Of course, we know that people want to visit Chung Ying Street, so we will have to consider a pragmatic approach. We'll start probably with fewer visitors, you know, on a pilot basis. So we need to find a good way to do it, and we're working on that. Thank you. Dr. Junius Ho. I went to Sha Tau Kok last week. And we now here we are talking about you know, how we can, you know, you just need to apply online. You get a closed area permit as long as it's within the quota. So I think it's not so much about security. It's about whether there is sufficient infrastructure. Maybe will there be too many people so they exceed the road capacity and whatever. It's not the same thing as Chung Ying Street. Now you go into Sha Tau Kok, and as the secretary said, if you then want to go on to Chung Ying Street, is a separate matter. It's a more complicated. Dr. Tunis Ho, please ask your question. Oh yes, on Sha Tau Kok, I don't think there is any need to set up a closed frontier area anymore. Just allow Hong Kong people to go in and out freely, because no one actually checks my permit. Is it perhaps I was on a special vehicle? But anyway, I'm saying is that there are always more solutions to problems. So once you open up Sha Tau Kok, then the whole place will be revitalized. I think we can do that. Secretary. Now, the policy address announced that we will expand the quota to 3,000, while not all the quota places are taken up now, especially on weekdays. So, as Dr. Junius Ho said, you just need to apply online. But of course, it's not that everyone can apply online. Say if you're someone wanted, of course, then you won't get a permit. Anyway. Now you just need to make an application. You should be able to go into Sha Tau Kok now. So that means you can go there anytime. As for the quota of 3,000, maybe since not the quota places Nottingham, maybe we can, consider extending the arrangement. But we need to set a quota because there are residents living there. We don't want them to be disturbed too much. And now residents are happy with the arrangement so far because it doesn't affect them much. And then they have a sense of pride when people come and visit Sha Tau Kok too. But then if there will be disturbance caused to residents, it's not something we want to see. Thank you. Mr. Perry, you. Thank you, President. Since June 2022, the first phase of the opening of Sha Tau Kok, CSTB has done much in promoting tourism development in Sha Tau Kok. So we must commend their effort. The policy address this year proposes new Sha Tau Kok tourism products. But then we need to address various issues first. Many in the sector told me that their customers are keen to visit Sha Tau Kok, but then they have to make applications for closed area permits 3 days ahead. Well, you may make it sound straightforward process, but by the time visitors have got the permits, they may have left Hong Kong already. So you're considering a two-group approach, but other than that, there are other ways to help travel agencies to apply for CAPs within the same day, and so they could bring in groups. It could be a group approach, and they could bring visitor groups to Sha Tau Kok. Secretary, there's reason for the 3-day requirement. It's not just about, making an online registration. There is a vetting process involved. Is there room for improvement to shorten it, say, from 3 to 2 days? We can see. We have to look at the data. If there are too many applications, we can't process them in time. And then then people are not issued the permits within 2 days as expected, then it won't be nice. So we have to see whether we could improve the shorten the 3-day period. There's certain room to do so in future. Thank you. Mr. Edward Lau. Thank you, President. I thank the Security Bureau for their effort. Now, Sha Tau Kok is a closed frontier area, and within the Northern Metropolis Development Strategy, the Sha Tau Kok is within the blue and green recreation, tourism, and conservation zone. So do we need comprehensive development? If you talk about eco and tourism, well, there are over 461 hectares of green side and 33 hectares of farms land and only 16 hectares of recreational land. Now, the Robin's Nest Country Park was just opened up to the public. And there's a road adjacent to the Robin's Nest Country Park. It's still a closed frontier area road. It actually links up Lin Ma Hang Chun to the outside. Lin Ma Hang Chun village is no longer FCA, and Robin's Nest is no longer an FCA. So would you consider taking that road out of the FCA, so it will be much easier for people going to Robin's Nest? Mr. Edward Lau, we're talking about tourism development in Sha Tau Kok. In any case, Secretary, do you have anything to say in reply? Thank you. In Lin Ma Hang Road, yes, there's a section which is the boundary patrol area. So it's there's a linked fence there, and there's a need for CP to go into there, and there's already we have built a slip road, but some may say that road is longer, is a detour. So they asked if we could open up this section of the road. We'll see if we could make enhancements. Thank you.
And you. Question 3, Dr. Wendy Hong. Thank you, President. Regarding expediting urban redevelopment, will the government inform this council? 1. Given that at present, when acquiring an owner-occupied property in an old district, the URA Urban Renewal Authority will calculate the compensation on the basis of the price of a 7-year-old building in the same locality, and it is learned that while some owners are willing to accept the compensation calculated based on the prices of buildings aged over 7 years in exchange for early redevelopment, the URA does not have a mechanism to handle such requests. Whether the government will consider reviewing the relevant mechanism jointly with the URA to provide room for exploring suitable compensation proposals with interested owners, thereby expediting redevelopment. 2. Given that while the URA's flat for flat FFF scheme allows owners affected by redevelopment projects to opt to purchase the FFF units reserved by the authorities as an option other than cash compensation, it is learned that some owners have been forced to switch from buying to renting as the amount of the compensation they receive is insufficient to purchase the reserved units or private residential units. Whether the government will consider when the supply of HOS home ownership scheme flats increases in the future, extending the flat options under the scheme to cover HOS flats so as to enable the affected owners to maintain their status as owners at affordable property prices. And 3. Given that this year's policy address has proposed to study the cross-district transfer of plot ratios, whether the government will consider implementing the transfer between two districts on a pilot basis and gradually extending it to multiple exchanges for one district, that is, allowing concurrent exchanges of plot ratios between one particular district and multiple districts across the territory, and study allowing developers to convert the unutilized plot ratios of development projects into plot ratio credit that can be traded and circulated in the market to be usable in any project where transfer of plot ratios is permissible, thereby increasing the potential profitability of redevelopment projects and increasing the incentives for market participation in redevelopment. Secretary for Development. President, my reply to various parts of the question raised by Dr. Hong is as follows. 1. The URA's acquisition policy of 7-year-old flat in the same locality, hereafter referred to as the 7-year rule, which has been in place since its passage by the Finance Committee in 2001, is in line with the current compensation criteria for owner-occupiers of residential properties affected by land resumption by the government. In fact, the majority of the acquired buildings are relatively old, many of them reaching 50 years or above. In comparison, the compensation policy of 7-year rule is relatively generous. Nevertheless, this would facilitate the URA to take forward its redevelopment projects and thereby take the lead in enlivening other private redevelopment projects in the area. The relevant acquisition arrangement would also encourage private developers to make similar acquisition offers when acquiring properties for redevelopment. Furthermore, the government has been actively implementing various measures to expedite the redevelopment of old districts, such as in July of this year, there's the passage of the proposed legislative amendments to the land compulsory sale for redevelopment ordinance, lowering the application thresholds for compulsory sale. Subject to negative vetting by the LegCo, the amended ordinance will soon come into effect on 6th of December this year. Any proposal to tighten the URA's compensation criteria for property acquisition during this critical period may likely backfire. We will closely monitor the situation of urban renewal after the commencement of the amended ordinance and consider whether there is a need to adjust the compensation criteria adopted by the URA. If necessary, we will conduct extensive consultations and hold in-depth discussions with stakeholders during the process. The question suggests that if there were property owners willing to accept compensation with an amount lower than that offered according to the 7-year rule, the URA might consider proceeding with the project. Nevertheless, apart from financial viability, the URA has to take into account a number of other factors, such as the current building conditions, technical assessments, community benefits, etc., in prioritizing redevelopment projects. The URA will not advance individual redevelopment projects based on one single factor. 2. The URA's FFF arrangement enables owner-occupiers who have received cash compensation under the 7-year rule to choose to purchase replacement flats in the market or residential flats provided by the URA at the redevelopment sites or at its high-tech development that is de novo. According to previous surveys conducted by the URA, over 80% of owner-occupiers, after accepting the URA's compensation under the 7-year rule, have purchased replacement flats in the market which suit their needs. Separately, the URA's records show that thus far, owner-occupiers of over 50 units approximately have joined the FFF scheme. The Housing Bureau indicates that the subsidized sale flats, SSFs, put up for sale by the Hong Kong Housing Authority aim to assist the low to middle income families who cannot afford private residential flats. Applicants are required to meet the income and asset limit requirements as well as the restrictions on residential property ownership. SSFs are also subject to alienation restrictions. As property owners affected by the URA's redevelopment projects have already been provided with reasonable cash compensation and ex gratia payments, after consulting the Housing Bureau, we consider it inappropriate to offer SSFs as an option to owners of private properties affected by the URA's projects under the principle of optimizing the use of public housing resources. Nevertheless, if these property owners are eligible to apply for SSFs, they may make relevant applications on their own based on the existing mechanism. 3. In view of the rapid aging of buildings in Hong Kong, we fully recognize the need to expedite redevelopment. The government will continue to support the redevelopment work of the URA. We will also further encourage private developers to take forward redevelopment projects. As I said earlier, we also have the amendments to the land compulsory sale for redevelopment ordinance coming into effect soon. These will have a knock-on effect, prompting the URA to enhance its joint sale service, assisting owners of old buildings to consolidate property interests for joint sale. The government has embarked on a policy study also to explore the use of newly developed land to create more favorable conditions for redevelopment. We will consider allocating land in the new development areas for the construction of rehousing estates to provide decanting space for redevelopment of old districts. We will also study the feasibility of cross-district transfer of plot ratios to transfer the residual plot ratios of redevelopment projects in old districts for use in the NDAs, so as to increase incentive for market participation in redevelopment. We also take note of the members' proposals for multiple exchanges for one district and the trading of plot ratio credit. But in order to relocate urban population into the NDAs to implement large-scale urban renewal, our preliminary view is that there is a need to specify NDAs for the purpose of receiving the plot ratios, and the transfer mechanism should be simple and easy to implement in order to avoid giving rise to speculative activities. We will formulate the preliminary proposals for consultation with stakeholders in the first half of next year. Thank you. Dr. Wendy Hong. Right now we have approximately 10,000 aged buildings. We have 600 additional ones each year. And in Yau Ma Tei and Mong Kok, we already have 3,000 of such aged buildings. The Yau Mong redevelopment project would cost $1 trillion. Along, we also have Sham Shui Po, Chun Wan, and North Point that are to be redevelopment. This is an astronomical figure. The URA has suffered losses for 2 consecutive years. They have issued a bond of $1.3 billion. They will then issue more bonds for $1.2 billion. But for the URA's 5-year plan, the cost alone would be $80 billion. Dr. Wendy Hong, please raise your question. Secretary, in my question, I have proposed 3 development directions to suggest a direction for the government. I am happy to hear that the Secretary is keeping an open mind to my suggestions. How will the government assist the URA in dealing with its astronomical cost in redevelopment? Thank you. Secretary, let me say this. For urban renewal, it is not rely only on the efforts of the URA. We are also encouraging market participation. Dr. Wendy Hong suggestions were mainly relevant to Yau Mong redevelopment project. even for projects that are led by the URA, they do not take place at the same time. The URA will have reference to its financial viability and take forward redevelopment projects accordingly. If we are focusing on URA's projects exclusively, the URA cannot rely only on its reserves indeed to take forward such projects. That's why the government has helped the URA in terms of its issuance of bonds. We have raised the the upper limit of the amount of debts for the URA. The URA actually has a really good credit rating at the moment. With this raising of upper limit, we have allowed the URA to raise more funds. We have also provided the URA with much more land at no cost, so that the URA does not have to rely on resumption of land to get the land resources. The government has also provided it with land for its redevelopment to create more synergy and to be more profitable. We do have plans with the URA, and whenever we formulate more plans, we will be carefully considering the proposals. Thank you. Mr. Lamson Kung. Dr. Hong has talked about an issue faced not only by owners in urban areas but also owners in rural areas. I recently received a request for assistance by an elderly woman. The building is aged approximately 90 years. It is very old. There is water leakage. She wanted to apply for redevelopment, but then because the area has been included in development, it will not be redeveloped. And then she asked if she can be allocated a public housing unit. The government said no. That's why the elderly woman had to stay in this dilapidated unit. Will the government have a mechanism to expedite processing for those living in units with such poor condition? Secretary. Well, this is the first time that I have heard of this case, but based on the circumstances I heard, if one is living in inadequate living conditions and is desperately in need of redevelopment, the unit itself, and the government wants to redevelop the area, we will definitely want to help this individual. I will liaise with the Lands Department to see how we can help this individual. Thank you. Mr. Andrew Lam. Regarding the URA's redevelopment model and compensation mechanism, they would make use of future land sale revenue to make compensation to owners of units to be resumed. But this does not really work out. For the 7-year rule, it seems that the administration has closed its doors to the suggestion of Dr. Hong, but then the government also has some support measures for the URA to be sustainable. I want to ask, for joint sales service of the URA, does the government have more concrete plans to support and assist owners living in aged buildings to undergo redevelopment with their own efforts? Thank you. Secretary, for the joint sales service, the URA already has some plans to tie in with the amended land compulsory sale for redevelopment ordinance. If owners in an aged building are eager to redevelop and they are seeking developers help to redevelop the building, right now the URA would require 50% of the owners to sign up for the joint sale service in order for the URA to step in. So the owners would have to ask for the consent of other owners in the building. The URA will soon lower the threshold to 40%. That is, as long as 40% of the owners agree to having to receive the joint sale service, the URA would provide such service. So once such ownership has been consolidated and they try to find a developer, no developer is willing to do that, they will not proceed. The URA in future has some plans to relax this requirement to allow for this to take place over multiple cycles. And the URA will make announcements about these measures when ready. The threshold would be in the past the thresholds for compulsory sale. So only once the compulsory sale thresholds are met, the buildings will be sold. Now we have the compulsory sale thresholds lowered. It should be beneficial to this. Thank you. Ms. Chen Hao-Yan. I do see the URA is faced with much difficulty, cash flow problems, as well as unsuccessful tendering exercise. I've also heard some owners are dissatisfied with the compensation provided by the URA. If the URA has more options for compensation, it should facilitate the smooth running of the resumption process by the URA. We have the FFF arrangement. Is it possible to include some SSF's options so that owners can trade in their units for these units? This should minimize dispute, and then we would not have the projects of the government considered as luxury property. Secretary. Well, subsidized sale flats are subsidized, as the name suggests. And as I mentioned earlier, for URA's projects, they are redeveloping private properties. So the owners affected are owners of private properties. When making compensation to these owners, they will be provided with reasonable cash compensation and ex gratia payment, which is why we have this 7-year rule. So say, if we are to provide SSFs to private owners, it seems to be unfair, and we are not directing resources to those who are most in need of public housing resources. That's why we do not have any plans to ask the URA to provide SSFs as an option for compensation. I understand that many are concerned about the financial viability of URA's operations. If we provide SSFs as an option, it may be even more difficult for the operations for the URA in terms of financial viability. Thank you. Dr. Teck Chi-Yuen. The Secretary mentioned the amendments made to the Land Compulsory Sale for Redevelopment Ordinance to encourage private developers to take part in redevelopment. But we have heard cases in which owners do not have much bargaining power compared to developers. Owners did not get reasonable compensation. With the lowering of the compulsory sale thresholds, the pace of redevelopment should hasten. More owners may receive unreasonable compensation. With expedited pace of urban renewal, how can you ensure owners receive reasonable compensation so that owners can receive the benefits of redevelopment as well? Thank you. Secretary, let me talk about some background information. when we are talking about private developers trying to buy land or units from owners, are owners really ripped off? The URA has a 7-year rule. It has a knock-on effect in the sense that private developers cannot have proposals that are too bad. Otherwise, owners would just go to the URA. And we have seen in the past when private developers try to buy back land, approximately 50% of the owners can purchase replacement flats, that is, units aged 20 years or below. So it's not that the owners are being ripped off as we observed. With the amendments of the Land Compulsory Sale for Redevelopment Ordinance taking place, for owners who think that they are receiving unreasonable compensation or have doubts about it, we have a center for minority owners that can provide valuation service at affordable prices to owners so that they know what the proper valuation for their unit is. If owners wish to go into litigation, we can also provide legal services. In the end, the Lands Tribunal would still play a gatekeeper role. Thank you.
Question for Mr. Vincent Cheng. Thank you, President. Some organizations and business operators have pointed out many restrictions they now encounter when applying for using outdoor or public spaces. In contrast, mainland shopping malls offer many success stories of making good use of outdoor spaces to attract customers. Their approach can serve as a reference. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, whether it has plans to relax the restrictions on the land use, such as allowing business operators to set up small stalls or leisure benches outside their shops or in outdoor spaces to create a vibrant atmosphere, thereby attracting more people to stay and spend money? If so, of the details. If not, the reasons for that. 2, as there are views that at present many activities require the application for temporary places of public entertainment license, which must be made 42 days before an event starts, and the procedures are lengthy. Whether the government will consider streamlining the application process and improving the coordination mechanisms among various departments, as well as introducing new measures such as allowing an application for the same venue to cover similar activities for 3 months and up to 1 year, so as to motivate operators to organize more events to create business opportunities. If so, of the details. If not, the reasons for that. And 3, as the government has introduced in recent years the management model of public open space in private development, under which private organizations are required to build and manage waterfront promenades for public use on their private harborfront lot, whether the government will allow greater flexibility in the consumption activities on such lots to make management more flexible for the private organizations. If so, of the details. If not, the reasons for that. Secretary for Development. President, we agree with Mr. Vincent Cheng on the point about making good use of outdoor or public spaces will create an amiable and lively atmosphere that attracts visitors and promotes spending in support of the government's objective to promote economic development. Whether it is space at storefront, outdoor or other places, or public open space within private developments, as long as the proposed commercial or other activities do not cause passage, safety or hygiene issues and do not disrupt the enjoyment of the public space by other users, relevant government departments will seek to facilitate the process as much as possible. We will also consider further streamlining approval procedures, taking into account suggestions from the trade and members. Regarding the various parts of the question, having consulted the Lands Department, the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department, the Development Bureau gives its reply as follows. 1. We understand that some lot owners wish to use the space at the storefront, outdoor or other places for activities, or to put leisure benches or special installations in those places to enhance dining and shopping experience to attract visitors and spending. If such activities are not allowed under the lease conditions, or if it involves unleased land, lot owners will have to apply for a waiver from the Lands Department to temporarily relax the restrictions. Now, to streamline this procedure, the Lands Department will take a streamlined procedure to straightforward cases. So, if a case involves non-commercial activities or an event held by an NGO or community celebrations, that will apply. Recently, the Lands Department has approved an application from certain operators to hold events in the Cheung Sha Wan waterfront for 2 non-commercial activities. Both events have to do with celebrating the 75th anniversary of the founding of the PRC. One event involved photo spots and stores. The other one involved intangible cultural heritage elements involving installations of pandas. In both cases, the operators explained in the email the nature and other details of the activities, and then within 10 days, the Lands Department provided its in principle no objection. Now, for malls, for events that follow the lease conditions, when such an event is to be held in a public space, the Development Bureau and the Lands Department are exploring a pilot scheme involving streamlining the approval of the waiver and internal government consultations. We're also exploring the option of allowing a mall to hold multiple events of the same nature within a certain period of time so that no separate applications will be needed. Now, I've just discussed the land use applications. It depends on the nature of the activity. The organizer will have to apply for waivers separately in some cases. So in a place where you can accommodate the public and you want to hold a concert or movie screening, then that organizer will have to apply to the FEHD for a temporary places of public entertainment license in accordance with the legislation. Now, if the place involves no erection of temporary structures, the application will have to be made within 18 days before the event starts, and that will be valid for up to a year. If a temporary structure is involved, the application will have to be made earlier. That's 42 days before the event starts, and then that license will be good for a month. To streamline the procedure, the FEHD offers one-stop services. It depends on the number and location of the event. The information is then passed to other relevant departments for parallel processing to speed up the process. To offer greater efficiency and ease for the trade, the FEHD has in place an arrangement to facilitate the renewal of such licenses. Now, for an event that is no longer than 3 months, and then the venue layout, temporary structure, and other details involved remain unchanged, the applicant will no longer be required to submit a fire services certificate and a certification by an authorized person or registered structural engineer. The government will keep an eye on the situation with the TPPEL and how it operates. And now turn to the third part. In 2011, the Development Bureau promulgated a set of guidelines on public open space in private development. That document sets out design and management arrangements. The guidelines also state specifically that commercial or non-commercial events should be reasonably and flexibly allowed in the public space inside private developments. To implement this streamlined arrangement, this arrangement will also apply to the non-commercial activities held in the public open space of private development. For lot owners who wish to hold commercial events, as long as the event meets the requirements about passage, safety, hygiene, and it does not disrupt the enjoyment of the public space by others, and assuming this event occupies a reasonable area, we will positively consider such a waiver application. The Development Bureau is working with the Lands Department about exploring ways to relax the restrictions, such as suitably relaxing the area limit and also setting standard fees for the documents. Thank you, President. Mr. Vincent CHENG. I thank the Development Bureau for the positive reply. We want to boost our economy during Christmas and the upcoming New Year. We have received comments from the trade about the complex procedure and the lengthy process, which takes 40+ days, and that fails to keep up with developments. Can the government give us a pledge by halving the processing time for this license? And for the waiver from the Lands Department, If the fee is too high, that would deter applicants. Will the Bureau consider that for certain events that may be in line with the government's celebrations, can we charge simply a peppercorn fee to lower the costs for the operators? Secretary. President, I want to take the second question first, fees charged by the Lands Department, and then I will invite the Undersecretary for Home and Youth Affairs to take the first question. The fee for the waiver applies when the event is commercial in nature. When it's non-commercial, an event held by an NGO, non-profit, or there's no transaction, that fee is waived. And even for commercial events, the waiver fee is not high. Let's look at our experience. Some operators applied for permission to put benches and tables for catering. It's just $20,000 per quarter. The certification may take time, and that may be less than ideal. That's why in my main reply, I said we will explore a standard fee. I will bear in mind the members' comment, and we will see if we can be flexible with the fee for different events. Undersecretary for Home and Youth Affairs. Thank you. The government is making its best effort to process applications with maximum speed so that events can happen. Now we have our laws on the use of public places to ensure order and safety, and those rules have to do with fire safety, hygiene, crowd management, among other things. Now, an application has to be made before 42 days before the event starts. When a temporary structure is involved, when there's no such structure, it's 18 days. That processing time covers the entire workflow. That includes site visit and approving their application. The applicant also makes changes to the application upon departmental requests. The FEHD also offers one-stop services. The FEHD talks to other departments about an application. Now, for different procedures, we also have different performance pledges. Each case is unique in terms of complexity. It depends on whether an applicant can provide all the documents needed. I want to share some figures. In 2023, we handled 2,949 applications. This year, as at the end of October, we handled 2,888 cases. This year, we have seen more events than last year. Most applications do not involve applications in short notice. Some applications come in months or even a year in advance. So it depends on the plans of individual organizers. Members are welcome to give us suggestions for different scenarios, and we are ready to talk about cases. We want to see the events become a success, and we want speed as well. Mr. Chen Hock-Fong. Thank you, President. I welcome the Bureau's remarks about waiving the fee and exploring a standard fee. I have an idea. We want to boost the economy. Can the government simply waive the license fees so that operators can promote outdoor activities? Will the government give that a thought? When we waive a fee, we have to consider government finances. Taxation aside, the government also charges different fees, and that becomes the government's revenue. During the COVID years, the Lands Department waived fees and also the rents from short-term tenancies. Those measures were in place. The government is in a fiscal tight spot. Waiving fees at this moment to boost the economy may be challenging. Here we're talking about business operators. It's a question of whether the fees now are unaffordable. As long as the fees are reasonable, they can stay. We'll also consider standard fees. We will also review our administrative fees to see if we can streamline the steps involved. Mr. Benson LUK. The main reply says, making good use of public outdoor space can create a pleasant and lively atmosphere. Last week, the government announced its calendar of mega events for next year. Now let's look at the Central Harbourfront event space. We should put that to good use. The Central Ferry Pier along with the West Kowloon Cultural District are popular choices for concerts. To hold entertainment events, we have to bear in mind the restrictions of the noise pollution ordinance. The event has to end at 11 p.m. That is at odds with our drive to promote a nighttime economy. In the Asian World Expo or the Hong Kong Coliseum, events can go on after 11 p.m. So will the government explore allowing greater flexibility for the end time of outdoor concerts to polish our image as a city of mega events? President, noise control is in place for outdoor events. I believe the member and the community can see why this is the case. Now, on flexibly relaxing the rules, the concerts are not held every day, but on certain days, whether flexibility is possible. Now, we can look at things on a case-by-case basis. What we do have to consider is whether there are commercial buildings or residential buildings near the venue or other sensitive facilities such as hospitals. So we have to look at the location involved on a case-by-case basis. Where possible, we facilitate the process, but there may be constraints to bear in mind. Dr. So Cheung. In 2011, the government released the guidelines on public open space in private development. And now the government is promoting the night vibes and also spending at harbourfront. The 2011 document fails to keep up with our needs now. Will the government act in line with the changing times by coming up with a new blueprint for the use of outdoor space? Can we have new guidelines so that while we maintain order and make good use of outdoor space, we can also make good use of the outdoor space for spending? President, let's look at waterfront promenades. The government promulgated the guidelines back then for a reason. That's because there were different aspirations in the community. Some public space was designated as such for a purpose. We have to bear in mind whether an event held in that space is accessible to the public. When the space is near residential places, people did not want buzzing events in that space often. But now we have different sections of waterfront promenades. People now want different features for different sections of the waterfront, and we're heading towards that direction. Let's look at the Kai Tak waterfront. Private developers built the place and then handed back the place to the government. But many such spots are right next to private flats. Holding commercial events in those places will warrant further consideration. Now, when an event is only held at certain hours and that makes the atmosphere livelier, on whether we can relax the rules and offer lower fees, if that space is near commercial facilities, we will have greater flexibility because we will worry less about the nuisance, and then we can relax the rules as much as we can. Mrs. Regina Ip, I was going to ask about the next question. Ms. Doreen Kong. In autumn and winter, the weather is fine, outdoor catering is great. But applying for the permission to have outdoor catering is tough. Operators complain about barrier after barrier, and the process takes too long. So for certain places in Hong Kong, can we have pilot schemes? Can we make it easier for operators to apply for outdoor seating areas? Can we make that faster and easier? President, we are ready to consider the idea from Ms. Kong. Conditions vary from one district to another, so it's hard to have a one-size-fits-all approach. But for pilots specific to areas, we are willing to consider such ideas. Mr. Adrian Ho. Waterfront areas are valuable and they have much potential, such as the Ferris wheel in the central waterfront. But an interested party has told me when they approach the government for a site, the progress has been unsatisfactory. If this goes on, we wonder if Hong Kong will miss out on mega events. Now, for internal administrative procedures, land use restrictions, and also information about our site, what are some ways we can raise our efficiency? We have the Harbourfront office under the Development Bureau. Interested parties are welcome to approach that office. That office can coordinate the views from different departments. So the best way to go is to approach the Harbourfront office. If people have places in mind where they want to put installations, they should turn to the Lands Department. Where needed, the Development Bureau is happy to coordinate between the parties.
Question number 5. Mr. Benson LUK. In 2018, the state president stated at the National Conference on Education that vigorous efforts should be made to nurture international talents proficient in foreign languages and adept at Chinese foreign negotiations and communications. There are views that as the country's superconnector and super value adder, as well as the premier international financial center connecting the country and the Middle East market, Hong Kong needs to nurture a large pool of foreign language talents. In this connection, will the government inform this council? 1. When government officials make overseas visits and when the government releases videos and hands out publications overseas to promote Hong Kong, whether local mother tongues of the relevant places have been used as a medium of communication? If so, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. 2. It is learned that there are a number of language universities in the country, such as the Beijing Foreign Studies University, which is approved to teach more than 100 foreign languages. Whether the government will study allocating more resources to tertiary institutions to strengthen training in foreign languages other than English, or establishing foreign language universities drawing on the models of the mainland, with a view to nurturing multilingual talents in public and private organizations so that they can tell the good stories of Hong Kong in different languages. And 3, whether it will study enhancing the existing biliterate and trilingual policy by turning it into a triliterate and quadrilingual policy. Secretary. President, Hong Kong is a cosmopolitan city. In recent years, various national strategies have been brought about by tremendous development opportunities for Hong Kong, which require us to strengthen exchanges and cooperation with the mainland and overseas regions and countries by capitalizing our advantage of linkage with our motherland and close connection to the world. To enhance our competitiveness and strengthen our position as an international education hub, we've been striving to nurture talents which are biliterate and trilingual and proficient in other languages. Having consulted the relevant departments, my reply to Mr. Luk's questions is as follows. 1. Currently, in taking forward overseas promotion work, the Overseas Economic and Trade Offices (ETOs) of the Hong Kong SAR government and Invest Hong Kong will make appropriate arrangements taking into account the common languages of the places. For instance, apart from the English version of the ETO websites, languages commonly used in the country's regions under their respective purview are also available, such as Japanese, Thai, German, Arabic, to facilitate the locals in understanding the information. Also, for meetings between officials of the government and local representatives of the political and business sectors and preparation of promotional materials, the ETOs concerned will arrange interpretation and prepare and issue materials in local languages where appropriate. In addition, to facilitate investors from around the world to understand the latest information about Hong Kong's business environment, Invest Hong Kong's website is available in a number of major languages, including simplified Chinese, traditional Chinese, English, Japanese, Spanish, French, Italian, as well as Arabic, which has been recently added. Invest Hong Kong's promotion videos are mainly in English and Putonghua. Depending on the origin of individual successful case studies, subtitles may be available in other languages. As for Invest Hong Kong's clients' meetings and promotional materials, Putonghua and simplified Chinese are used in the mainland, while English and the local language, where necessary, are used in overseas markets. Interpretation will also be arranged at investment promotion seminars. On external promotion, ISD produces a series of creative contents in multiple languages for placement in overseas and the mainland through digital and social media platforms, as well as outdoor advertising in the form of short videos and banner advertisements to tell the good stories of Hong Kong. They are available in Arabic, Indonesian, Dutch, English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Malay, Thai, Vietnamese, etc. ISD also translated and printed the promotional booklet titled Hong Kong Connect into foreign languages such as Arabic, Bahasa Indonesia, Malay, and Thai for distribution to target recipients at promotional activities during senior officials' overseas visits. Moreover, ISD has held the immersive Hong Kong promotional roving exhibitions in Jakarta, Indonesia, Bangkok, Thailand, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and Guangzhou, China since July 2023. It will also be staged in Dubai, the Middle East, next month. In addition to English, the exhibition information is also available in the local languages of each stop to enhance the publicity effort. 2. The 8 University Grants Committee-funded universities have all along been making flexible use of their resources to offer a wide range of publicly funded programs with regard to their respective roles and positioning, as well as diversified learning opportunities for students in response to market demands. Learning foreign languages can help students understand multiculturalism and strengthen their connections with different parts of the world, thereby enhancing their competitiveness in entering the workforce, pursuing studies, or starting their own business in the future. University education also aims to encourage students to acquire knowledge and skills in different fields and nurture the high-caliber talents required by different industries so as to inject impetus into Hong Kong's development. The UGC-funded universities have offered as many as 12 contemporary foreign languages for learning, including Arabic, French, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Kiswahili, Korean, Portuguese, Russian, Swedish, Spanish, and Thai. They also offer a range of specialized programs majoring in foreign languages or cultures for students who aspire to become professionals in the relevant fields. As for students pursuing undergraduate programs in other areas such as engineering, business, and social sciences, a number of universities also offer minor options of foreign languages courses as free electives for interested students to pursue, having regard to their personal aspirations and abilities. In addition, a number of self-financing institutions at present offer post-secondary programs related to different foreign languages and relevant elective subjects. The above arrangements for major, minor, and free electives enable students to study foreign languages having regard to their learning objectives in an appropriate manner. The existing arrangements meet practical needs with flexibility. Hence, the government has no plans to set up a foreign language university. Nevertheless, we will continue to encourage the UGC-funded universities to provide students with opportunities to learn foreign languages, and through various avenues such as student exchange programs and experiential learning, enable students to gain exposure to the cultures of more places, broaden their horizons, seize our advantages, and be prepared for their future. Over the years, the government has been collaborating with the Standing Committee on Language Education and Research, other advisory bodies, stakeholders to enable Hong Kong people, in particular students and working adults, to become biliterate and trilingual through sponsoring and implementing measures under the Language Fund. Moreover, the Education Bureau endeavors to develop students' multilingual competence, enabling them to make life planning based on their own interests, abilities, and aspirations, and to connect to the world. Over the years, the Bureau offers other languages courses. Category C of the Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education examination for senior secondary students to study as an elective subject. As announced in the 2024 policy address, EDB will implement a pilot scheme to encourage schools to apply for additional resources to provide opportunities for junior secondary students to learn other languages in order to facilitate a stronger articulation in their learning of other languages at the senior secondary level. Mr. Benson LUK, of course, one must start young when in acquiring a foreign tongue. Now, according to the reply, 8 UGC-funded universities have been providing language courses of 12 contemporary foreign languages for students. Now, this is, of course, a good idea. In the mainland, in different places, recently, they have begun to build a talent pool who could speak a foreign tongue so that young people can engage in cultural and business activities that can connect to the world. Now, our goal, likewise, is to connect to the world via business and cultural activities, especially for the Belt and Road Initiative and ASEAN markets. We play the role as the super connected and super value adder. We should also nurture a talent pool for young people to be able to speak different languages so that we can tell good stories of Hong Kong and the country to the world. Secretary. Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. LUK, for the follow-up. As mentioned by the member, of course, one gets an edge if one acquires a foreign tongue at a young age. And that is why, in this year's policy address, the Chief Executive has announced that the pilot scheme will be introduced to benefit junior secondary students so that we start early for students in their junior years of secondary schools. They will get an opportunity to learn other languages, so they get an early exposure. For junior secondary students, they can sit in the DSE exams, and we've also added other language courses such as Arabic and Russian. These are languages spoken by Belt and Road countries. Depending on the school's circumstances and the needs of the students, the schools can apply for additional resources to run these language courses to equip students with the ability to speak different languages, and for us to build a stronger foundation in connecting with the Belt and Road and ASEAN countries. Mr. Hon Chow. Thank you, President. Because of historical reasons, some foreign languages may be more commonly spoken than others. For example, Spanish is spoken in most Latin American countries, and French in many countries for many countries in Europe. Now, in your reply, you refer to electives. For these commonly spoken foreign languages, I wonder if more exchange programs will be organized. Students will be able to get exposure from the day-to-day living in these countries through the exchange programs so as to bolster their language foundation. Secretary. Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Chow. Mr. Chow referred to French and Spanish. Every year, there are over 100 senior secondary students taking these courses, and especially for French, over 200 students, in fact, have taken up these courses. So, as to whether we can expand the exchange programs, it may not be as easy, but we know that there are other privately run exchange programs available. Students could go on exchange to South American countries for a semester. And likewise, we receive students from these countries as well. But as I understand, it will be it's more common to run exchange programs for university students. We also have programs to broaden students' global horizon. For example, we have religious studies and also European studies, and some universities have courses like global and geopolitical master's courses, and these courses include exchange tours to different places, such as Europe and the Middle East. There are also programs that mandate the study of a foreign language. So for the global and regional studies, students will be able to not only equip themselves with a foreign tongue, but also to go on exchange. There are ample resources available. Students are given a lot of opportunities to go on exchange. Professor James Lau. Well, this is a very good topic. We should foster a closer tie with the Belt and Road countries. In fact, I've looked into this issue with my university. It's not as easy as Language 101. You don't immediately acquire this foreign tongue. Although courses are available for university students, they get 3 or 6 credits. But in terms of language proficiency, these are not working languages for them. So additional resources should be provided to universities to offer minor options for students to take, say, Arabic or Russian, for them to speak this language as professionals. That means we should have like 普通话, Russian, Arabic courses for future professionals. Secretary. We understand that some universities offer these courses such as Arabic and Russian languages. Apart from just language courses, these universities also offer the relevant cultural studies. So for learning the Arab culture as well as Islamic culture, students will also be able to learn more about these places on top of their languages. As for your suggestion, we'll go back and consider whether UGC can provide more resources in this regard. But as I explained in this year's policy address, the Chief Executive announced the introduction of a pilot scheme for junior secondary students, and they will be able to take the Arabic and Russian courses. But then we need to consider student uptake. We offer them options. These could be minor options, free electives, or major. But it depends on whether students are motivated to take these foreign language courses, and this is something we need to explore together. Professor William Wong. Language is very important in our effort to nurture talents. It takes time. In fact, the translation systems are working quite well. Have you considered providing training for frontline personnel to make use of AI-based translation systems? Secretary, we are promoting digital education as well as leveraging on AI to promote language learning among students, and this is an area we are looking into. Of the $500 million set aside under the Quality Education Fund, we are working with some organizations in this regard. In fact, some tech companies have experience in leveraging technology in promoting language learning. Machine translation is possible, but for the time being, a machine doesn't replace the learning process because of the accuracy issue. You still need to learn this language and the culture behind in order to understand whether the translation is correct. So this is something that the Standing Committee on Language Education and Research will follow up on. Ms. Maggie Chan, sorry, I was going to ask a question for the next one. Mrs. Regina Ip. I share the view of Mr. Lau Chi-Pang. In terms of foreign language, it's difficult to get to the working level. Well, decades ago, I got a qualification of French in GCE O-level examination. I also learned Japanese, and I also studied I studied another language. It was done in immersive manner, but I can't even read a manual now. So for the short-term exchange in the university, I don't think this is sufficient. I think the best way is for the Education Bureau to set aside some money to run a scholarship for aspiring students who wish to tap the Middle East market. They can get this scholarship. For the fine dining restaurants, in Europe, they are equipped with prayer rooms facing the east side for Muslims. And the waiters will not provide a wine list for these customers. So, likewise, the Secretary could perhaps consider putting in place a scholarship for aspiring students to learn Arabic so as to learn about their culture and language and tap the market in the Middle East. Secretary, immersive learning is something that I fully agree with the member. It will be more effective to learn the language in the environment, in an immersive environment, I mean. And there are many exchange opportunities for students. For students who are interested, for students who are already enrolled in these courses, they are offered a lot of opportunities. That is at least the case for university students. As I replied to the other member, for secondary school students, they may be too young for the exchange. Now, for Sukuk Finance, for Baptist University, Space of Hong Kong U, they do have some these Islamic finance courses. But of course, we can always do more. We can encourage UGC to provide more resources to foster more exchanges.
Last question seeking an oral reply, Dr. TAN Yueheng. Thank you, President. The Chief Executive has proposed in the 2024 policy address to set up a working group on promoting silver economy, and one of its 5 areas of work is to enhance silver financial and security arrangements. In this connection, will the government inform this council 1. Of the implementation of the various schemes under the Retire 3, that is the Hong Kong MC Annuity Plan, the reverse mortgage programs, and the policy reverse mortgage program operated by the Hong Kong Mortgage Corporation Limited, which is wholly owned by the government through the Exchange Fund, including the respective numbers of participating elderly persons. 2. Of the measures currently put in place by the government, in addition to the Retire 3, to assist elderly persons in making arrangements for retirement financial security and planning, as well as to enhance the financial planning and management capabilities of elderly persons. And 3. Whether it will formulate a roadmap in the future to gradually improve measures for meeting the financial security and management needs of elderly persons from various classes, if so, of its plans, if not, the reasons for that. Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury. President, the Chief Executive announced in a 2024 policy address the setting up of the Working Group on Promoting Silver Economy, which will implement measures in 5 areas, including the promotion of silver financial and security arrangements, thereby assisting the elderly in making suitable financial arrangements and strengthening retirement protection. The working group held the first meeting in early November to examine the initial work directions of bureaus concerned under the 5 areas and discussed ways to strengthen collaboration among relevant bureaus and departments to build a silver-friendly community in concerted efforts and accelerate the development of silver economy. My reply to the question raised by Dr. Tan is as follows. One of the missions of the Hong Kong Mortgage Corporation Limited Hong Kong MC is to promote the development of the retirement planning market. In mid-2021, the Hong Kong MC Retirement 3 brand was launched to promote the Hong Kong MC Annuity Plan, the Reverse Mortgage Program RMP, and the Policy Reverse Mortgage Program PRMP. These 3 products share the common feature of providing retirees with immediate, stable, and lifelong income. Their implementation progress is set out below. The Hong Kong MC Annuity Plan enables customers to turn their savings into lifelong monthly annuity income. Since its launch in 2018 up to end October 2024, the Hong Kong MC Annuity Plan had acquired nearly 20,000 customers with total subscription at approximately $18 billion. In the first 10 months of 2024, the Hong Kong MC Annuity Plan received over 6,500 applications, representing a year-on-year increase of almost 3 times, with total subscription exceeding $3.3 billion, marking a year-on-year increase of 1.5 times. The RMP helps homeowners release the value of their residential properties so that they can receive monthly income and stay in the properties for the rest of their lives. Since its launch in 2011 up to end October 2024, the RMP had received 7,837 applications with an average monthly payout of $16,700. In the first 10 months of 2024, the RMP received 859 new applications, representing a year-on-year increase of 45%. The PRMP enables borrowers to use their life insurance policies as collateral so that they can receive lifelong payouts. Since its launch in 2019 up to end October 2024, the PRMP had received 124 applications with an average monthly payout of around $2,700. In the first 10 months of 2024, the PRMP received 35 applications. 2. The government has been working closely with relevant regulators to enhance the elderly's understanding of retirement planning. We, together with the Securities and Futures Commission and its subsidiary, the Investor Financial Education Council (IFEC), conduct investor education through various means and channels, including public activities, community outreach, social media platforms, and so on, to enhance the public's financial literacy. The IFEC's website provides information on different investment tools and diverse digital financial management tools for free public use. Meanwhile, financial planning for retirement should begin during working years. Therefore, the IFEC's education foci for working adults cover saving more for retirement and selecting suitable financial products. With the introduction of the retirement planning toolkit and retirement planner calculator and so on, the IFEC assists working adults in assessing readiness for retirement and setting retirement goals and action plans. In respect of investor education for the elderly, the IFEC's education foci includes selecting suitable financial products, making the most of retirement savings, building resilience against financial adversities, and anti-financial scam. In particular, the IFEC endeavors to enhance the elderly's digital financial literacy and capabilities in detecting financial scams while alerting investors to the risks and opportunities in respect of digital financial management. For example, the IFEC has introduced the first ever anti-financial scam educational scheme designed for the elderly. Through interactive game provided by the scheme, the elderly can learn how to identify and prevent falling prey to financial scams. The IFEC has also launched from March this year the first digital experiential IFEC Finet Hub, which provides free immersive learning experiences for the elderly to enhance their fraud prevention awareness. The Hong Kong MC is also committed to enhancing public financial literacy through collaboration with various organizations in arranging the launch of educational videos, seminars, exhibitions, loyalty programs, and so on. The Hong Kong MC provides information on the concepts of longevity risk and retirement financial planning to assist the elderly in making suitable financial arrangements. 3. The IFEC has formulated the financial literacy strategy, targeting the Hong Kong public with the elderly identified as a core segment. The IFEC has been devoting resources to assist the elderly in managing and protecting their retirement savings based on 3 main themes concerning the elderly's behavior, namely making the most of limited income, building resilience against financial adversities, and selecting suitable financial products. During the annual territory-wide financial education campaign Hong Kong Money Month held in March this year, the IFEC collaborated with stakeholders from different sectors to conduct multiple seminars and activities for the elderly and pre-retirees with an aim to enhance their financial literacy. The IFEC will continue to provide fresh investor education experiences and step up its partnerships with stakeholders such as social welfare organizations in catering for the elderly's financial management needs. Meanwhile, we understand that elders from different walks of life have different needs. Therefore, we'll continue to maintain communication with relevant organizations and stakeholders, organize various activities, and strengthen information provision in order to enhance the awareness of the elderly and pre-retirees of retirement preparation. Thank you, President. Dr. TAN Yueheng. Thank you, President. From the reply of the Secretary, we can see that the Hong Kong MC Annuity Plan was launched in 2018. 20,000 applicants have registered for this scheme. As for RMP, there were 7,837 applications. For PRMP, there were only 124 applications. So the retiree applications are limited in relation to the number of applicants. It's obvious that it is not common enough. It lacks inclusiveness. In relation to silver financial and security arrangements, will the administration consider giving a certain government input, say $1 million for $1 million, then $50,000 from the government? Then we can enhance the inclusiveness of the retiree implemented by the Hong Kong MC. Thank you, President. Thank you, Dr. Tan, for his question. Let us take a look at the retirees on the Hong Kong MC annuity plan. They received a total of 25,000 customers. It involved $55 billion to regular cash flow. So we can see that the Hong Kong market is a diverse one. The Hong Kong MC has retiree, but it is not the only product that is available in the market. On the one hand, we can make good preparation for retirement, but it can also give options for pre-retirees and other Hong Kong people so that in the market they can identify products that suit their needs. Honestly, financial preparation varies from one person to another. We want to provide social welfare benefits and provide appropriate support. We have our own products, and there are also other products in the private market. For instance, you can see on the MTR there are advertisements about other products. There are also other insurance products. All these show the diversity and the flexibility of Hong Kong. Members shouldn't just focus on the applicant number of retirees to identify the deficiency of the market. We are more than willing to see a wider range of products that can cater for the needs of the elderly or pre-retirees. Mr. Robert Lee. Will the administration consider working with the financial sector to hold more seminars on elderly financial planning? Will the administration also consider working with the police force to brief elderly people on the latest scams in the market in order to enhance their vigilance? Thank you, President. Thank you, Member. The key is how we can provide investor education in a consistent manner, including different education channels to pre-retirees so that they can make advanced preparation. On different fronts, we are already working in this area, and we are willing to work with different sectors. For example, the IFEC under the Securities and Futures Commission, there's a board which includes not only a regulator but also other institutions in the market, which includes representatives from the securities sector. We want to enhance the connection so that we can balance supply and demand. We can take into account demand and supply so that we can formulate products that are suitable for members of the public. In my reply, targeting pre-retirees, regarding how they choose the appropriate retirement products and manage their retirement savings, and anti-scams, there should be dedicated publicity and public education in relation to interactive exercises and games. Elderly people will be alive to risks in relation to financial arrangement or retirement planning. So we can increase the vigilance among elderly people against risks that they should be alive to. Mr. Chen Kim-por. Thank you, President. Upon retirement, if elderly people are swindled out of their own money, it will be difficult for them to live on their remaining savings. The IFEC focuses on anti-financial scam. It is aimed to enhance the public's financial literacy. This is very important. Doesn't the administration have any KPI to assess the effectiveness of the policy? For example, any KPI on the number of retirees? It is not sufficient if the applicants only total 10,000 or 20,000. We need to have hundreds of thousands of applicants. Will there be any latest information on anti-financial scams, for instance? Thank you, President. Thank you, Member. Regarding the target group of the IFEC, it is a wide, but it is targeted at the same time. We want to enhance the public's financial literacy. We also want to target the specific needs of different course segments as well as their level of understanding. That's exactly how we design different tools. In the past year, the IFEC provided tailor-made education programs for investors. So they are targeted, but then they are wide as well. We target young people, employees, elderly persons, and so on. We also target disadvantaged groups. As of late October, the IFEC provided some 250 talks and online seminars for a total of 21,000 people. We also organized 38 seminars for 38 employees. We also provided public education activities to 1,000 elderly persons. So you can see that the contents are diversified and they are rich. The target of the IFEC is to enhance the public's financial literacy as well as the resilience against financial adversities. So we want to enhance their financial literacy. Regarding the relevant financial literacy strategy, we want to enhance the public's financial literacy attitude as well as behavior. We focus on these three areas. In the recent survey conducted by the government, the overall financial literacy among Hong Kong people has increased to 71.1 points. We need to take into account the historical figures as well. In the previous four surveys, 71.1 points was the highest. In 2015, 68.3. In 2022, 70.1. The discrepancy could be a simple figure, but we can see the trend with efforts of the IFEC, not just itself, but in concerted efforts with other stakeholders and community organizations. The points serve as an objective criterion for the increasing financial literacy of members of the public in Hong Kong. We want to target pre-retirees and we want to provide continuous education in this area. Ms. Maggie Chan. Thank you, President. Many Hong Kong people buy properties in the GBA. In this connection, for RMP, will elderly people be allowed to use properties in the GBA as collateral? Will you also be promoting the diversification of retirement plans? This is a topic we have been discussing with different organizations. The operation and the characteristics of local market differ from those in the GBA, so we will have to conduct studies. As Ms. Maggie Chen mentioned, we only accept Hong Kong properties as collateral under the Reverse Mortgage Program, RMP. However, it does not impede making arrangements of living in the two places. Cross-boundary transportation, for financial management, bank arrangements, all these have become very convenient. So even though we only accept Hong Kong properties as collateral, it doesn't affect the fact that they can make good use of the GBA to prepare well for their retirement life, but then they will have to plan well. The two markets are different after all. The property markets are also different. Mr. Kingsley Wong. Thank you, President. More and more people know about the Hong Kong MC annuity plan For the first $300,000, there will be an increase of 25%. That is a lifelong increase. There is also a discount of premium offer of 2%, but only 20,000 applicants. So I agree with Dr. Tan that it is not inclusive enough. Employees can get the MPF contribution as a one-off amount upon retirement, but then when the finances are not managed well, then the whole amount will be gone. What about buying an annuity plan with MPF contributions at a discount of 10%? Then employees will be able to enjoy a monthly income in their retirement life. Secretary, thank you, President. I believe members' question is about enhancing the regime of the MPF system. At the same time, can it be connected to different products launched by the government? The aim is to diversify the options under the MPF scheme. We'll definitely look into this area. We'll see how to diversify the products available under the MPF scheme. On enhancing the range of products under the MPF scheme, we have made arrangements for a priority mechanism for MPF members to subscribe to green bonds. When we launch the infrastructure bond programs, there will also be a priority mechanism, and we will accord priority to MPF members. But I understand concerns of the member. Member wants to have sustainable development of the MPF in order to provide better retirement arrangements for retirees. But we need to take into account different products offered in the market in different periods of time. With the launch and the implementation of the eMPF platform, there will be a more diversified range of products available in the market.
Government Bill first reading. Air Pollution Control Amendment Bill 2024, second reading, Secretary for Environment and Ecology.